Thanks for sticking around, everybody.
Yeah.
I am indeed joined by Stephen Thorpe today.
Yes,
Thank you.
indeed. This is going to be great.
Yeah, I hope so. It will be. We're here to talk about the Super Bowl and what we've learned so far from past Super Bowls, right? And what we're hoping to accomplish in the future.
It's going to be awesome. This next Super Bowl is going to be truly epic.
Yeah. Why don't I take a second just to ask you to introduce yourself. What does Stephen Thorpe do at Fox?
Yeah, absolutely. So I actually lead up the video platforms team here at Fox, and we support the Fox Sports app, Fox Now, Fox Nation direct-to-consumer product, as well as all the other Fox entities to make sure that we have just a really excellent streaming quality of service for users who come to our direct products. It's an exciting group, starting with marquee events like the Super Bowl, but also the World Cup and everything in between, from a new episode of The Masked Singer to your local news. So really a wide variety of stuff, from the largest events to things that are a lot more every day, but really exciting stuff everywhere in between.
Awesome. Where would you say we are in the journey of streaming the Super Bowl to every home in America?
Yeah,
over the internet, I mean.
It's wild. Honestly, let me actually say a little Amazon phrase here. It's still day one, or to use a sports analogy, we are still in the first inning of the game. It is looking at Nielsen numbers. The Super Bowl is average around 100 million people watching the game. And on streaming, we deliver this last year about 6% of the audience via the first-party streaming applications. That was on NBC. Last time we had the game, we did about 3.5% of the streaming audience. And so there's an absolute ton of opportunity here to continue to grow and scale this, both amongst our digital audiences as well as our DMVPD partners and everything. And it really is just incredible, the amount of opportunity that we have to get in front of users, deliver a great quality experience, really scale the environment for IP delivery. But in all honesty, it really is kind of just at the beginning of these events. With about 6%, we do see this kind of on a hockey stick of growth, where we are getting to, honestly, just a really exciting place to deliver audience at scale. But 6%, we have room to grow. But it's going to be an exciting year as we work to ramp that up. Maybe we can get to 10% this year and just rocket ship from there.
Awesome. I'm wondering, between broadcast and over the internet streaming, is it the same experience that gets delivered to everybody, or are there things that you can do online that you can't do on broadcast, or vice versa?
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, certainly there's a ton of capabilities that we look at. We look at broadcast, and I mean, obviously it's a great experience that there's decades of opportunity and technology invested there. But on digital, this is a real opportunity for us to focus on great quality user experience, augment it with interactive experiences. And so whether that's additional data that is below the experience, integrated into the application, whether this is monetization opportunities. We do a lot to focus on really unique, robust ad experiences for customers and advertisers, to make sure that there is a dynamic per user decision to ad load for every customer, to make sure that they have that unique experience. And then in addition to that, we also have an opportunity to understand the user journey through the entire stack. And so as a technologist, it's really awesome to be able to understand not just the Nielsen reports the day after, but to actually understand in real time how many people are watching the content, what quality they're experiencing. If they're having problems, there's actually the opportunity to go and mitigate that frequently in real time. And so it really allows us to focus on that customer experience and have a fantastic journey. And so we're super excited about that opportunity to really across the stack focus on the customer experience, focus on the interactivity, and focus on the monetization to drive the industry forward in really interesting ways.
Sure. Can you give a couple examples about what types of metrics you're pulling in to improve the user experience?
Absolutely. And so, this is a term that we use called observability, and this is really focused on from all the way from the broadcast center through the transmission systems, the workflow, down at the actual end user device. how can we understand that, that signal flow and that customer journey all the way through that stack from start to finish? And so we look at, from the customer side, what is their rebuffering rates? Are they having errors? What is the picture quality that they're experiencing? And then stepping back up the chain, we're looking at every single step of the process to make sure that we have visibility and observability into that stack, so we can say, is there an encoder that might be having a problem? Is there an opportunity to look at a CDN peering partner? Is there an opportunity to really tune and tweak that experience so that we can, going through the stack, make sure that we understand every step in that journey to make sure that there's great quality experience, and if there is a problem that crops up, that we can mitigate and route around that really in real time, to make sure that we protect that customer, and ideally there's no impact. It's just a transparent route and instant failover, and we're good to go. And so with these observability capabilities, we're really focused on that customer experience and making sure that they get all the way down to the to that great picture, that great storytelling, that great audio experience.
Wow, so it sounds like there's a lot of tooling that would go into that at each step in the chain, right?
Yeah.
And how do you prepare for something like this?
Yeah, so it takes a ton of effort, and so for the Super Bowl, getting ready for it next year, the team's actually already been working on this for about 6 months. We think about this as a 12+ month journey to get ready for the Super Bowl, and so we are thinking through every step in the process, from building out great workflows with partners like Amazon, through our CDN delivery settings. As we think about delivering this event to such a large audience, we really are procuring a significant or a measurable part of the internet to be able to deliver this event, and so those conversations have to start very early. In addition to that, we're really focusing on the team building great technology, and that's something that we're working on right now, but also focused on how do we practice and prepare for the unexpected. And it really is that unexpected that takes so much of our focus. Happy path, that's pretty easy. But what happens when there's a fiber cut? What happens when there's a solar flare? What happens when there's anything from start to finish that could go wrong? And so we make sure that we're investing in a ton of resiliency, a ton of redundancy, and making sure that at each step of the process that we have alternate options to be able to make sure that the experience is protected.
How many what-if scenarios does your team go through?
Yeah, no, so for an event like the Super Bowl, it really is an incredible list. Starting this fall, we'll be literally going through hundreds of different scenarios, looking at each individual piece of infrastructure, each individual transmission path, each possible nuanced configuration of the system to make sure that each of these is protected, fault tolerant, and then actually we'll go through chaos testing with the team, and we'll run rehearsals where we actually try and intentionally break things. We give the team the opportunity to then react to those things and start learning both how to validate that specific problem is well covered, but also they have the opportunity to just learn how to mitigate and kind of have that mindset of, well, sure, we want to understand absolutely every detail of what's actually wrong here, but more importantly is we want to mitigate customer impact. Mm-hmm. And so by going through a ton of rehearsals, a ton of testing, we actually find problems and work to solve them, but also train the team to be able to think through that customer-focused mindset where we can really solve problems in real time and focused on mitigation. So it honestly is a ton of preparation leading up to this, going through rehearsals, going through chaos testing, going through load testing, every other type of testing you can think of, to make sure that we deliver that customer experience on the day.
When do you start this chaos testing?
Yeah, absolutely. And so chaos testing will be something that we start here in the fall.
Okay, so about
6 months ahead of
6
time.
months before, okay.
Yeah, and so the team right now is focused on building towards a Super Bowl, and this is something that we've been working on here, honestly, since before the last Super Bowl happened a few months back. And we're working through testing out configurations, making sure encoders are there, making sure that we have every step of the transmission workflow locked and loaded, ready to go. And then as we get to fall, this will be an opportunity to actually use this infrastructure and this ecosystem to deliver regular season NFL, to deliver the World Series, to deliver the elections happening in November, to deliver the World Cup, which is another marquee event happening in November. And honestly, throughout all that, we'll be actually exercising the system in a production environment, but in the lead up to that, in off hours and during regular business hours, we'll be taking the team through a variety of test suites, looking at each of those scenarios and giving them these curveballs that is unexpected. Hey, what happens if we turn off an encoder? What happens if a CDN partner just happens to stop responding? What if an origin server goes down? And really making sure that the team is ready to respond to any of those issues. And so that'll start this fall and will really continue through all the way up until the Super Bowl in February of next year.
Two questions on that. One, I'm just curious, what's the craziest, like you said you make a list of all these what if scenarios. Like where does the list come from? Is it everybody sort of contributing and saying what if this, what if that?
Absolutely.
And what's the craziest one that somebody's come up with that you
Yes.
had to figure out?
So it's wild, So for an event like this, we're of course focusing first and foremost on the infrastructure, but we also have to have a great operating facility to work in. And so this last year, we were actually, this was just in the before times, before COVID, we were able to assemble our team in a Fox Studios soundstage out in Los Angeles, built an amazing operations center, but this operations center didn't have the technical infrastructure that we needed. So we had to bring in our own power generation, like triple redundant internet, extra air conditioning, like every little detail that you can think about from both the operational ecosystem of the technology stack, but also all the facilities around running a team where you have to make sure that the operations center actually runs as well. And so in the spirit of that, we're of course looking for what happens if there's fiber cuts, what happens if there's, a giant piece of the internet that goes offline. But we're also thinking about like, hey, what if the building catches on fire? Like we actually did a fire drill, just like in elementary school. We had everybody evacuate the building and actually try and run the war room from the parking lot on mobile hotspots.
Did it work?
It was definitely not quite the same streaming capability. We couldn't get 100 people streaming at the same time, but we were able to get into our tools and actually, do the key pieces of the game where we could actually manage the systems, see the metrics, and see a couple of live streams at the same time.
Okay.
And
Where are all the tools running?
Yeah, all the tools are in the cloud. I mean, and that's been one of the amazing things here about this transformation and this journey that we're on, is everything really is being moved into the cloud. And so whether this is the encoders, whether it is the operational tools, whether it is the routing capabilities, we're really looking through this on how we can make sure that not just the delivery systems, but also all the operational and monitoring systems that sit on top of them are running in the cloud, accessible from anywhere, and also resilient in case of any sort of cloud infrastructure issues. And so we have to make sure that everything from that tool that lets you make a CDN routing change, to the actual encoder, to the packager, to all these things are able to resolve or withstand any sorts of issues that might happen.
Got it. So on game day itself, though, how many people were in the room, you said?
Yeah, so in our operations center this last time around, we're having north of 100 people. This was in the pre-COVID times that was like still felt huge, but 100 people in the room, making sure that every piece was working. How do
you create an operating procedure for 100 people for one event so that they're not stepping all over each other?
Yeah.
Like, so when something breaks, like how does somebody know that they are the one to own the resolution and you just keep the communication smooth?
So honestly, that was one of the biggest things that we worked through, making sure that we had a model in place where we could have not just the people understanding what their job was, but also how to inbound issues, triage them, get an incident manager assigned, and then have a team that was segmented to really respond to this. And so we had a concept that we called ground control, where the team really was well trained and went through a number of activities to understand how to operate in this model. but we would look for a variety of inbound reporting methods. And so whether this could be alerts from a variety of tools, this could be, monitoring of social. And so, anytime we saw somebody on social saying, my Fox stream doesn't work, the Super Bowl is broken, anything like this, that would actually trigger an incident for us that we would then work to resolve that, and in many cases actually have customer care reach out to that person actively and see if we could actually drive resolution. But this was also then, dealing with our executive team. Of course, with the game on, we had a ton of folks actually at venue. They're trying to watch the game on their phone. We're hearing things from all over the company, and so any of those inbound requests also had to be, given that white glove treatment. And so across the stack here, we had a variety of inbound methods that would come in, and we actually had a ground control model where we would then review those, understand at a very high level, is this a video issue? Is this an API issue? Is this a client issue? Is this, whatever piece of that is, and we would assign an incident manager to that issue to drive it into ground. If there was a major incident, or thankfully there weren't any, but if there were any major incidents, the team would really focus on resolution and mitigation, focusing on what are those levers that we could pull to route traffic around it. Or in most cases, it was just like, let's understand what is behind this. What is the root cause of this? And so if someone can't connect to video, why is that? Oh, well, it turns out they're actually outside the country. Then that's expected. Closing the issue. Are we seeing a spike in one of our database requests? Well, we might need to reboot a node, take that out of rotation, and run that through. And so we would assign that incident manager to get with the team members that they needed and work that issue through resolution. This would give us an opportunity to then actually multi-thread issues. And so at one point, we would actually be tracing down 10 or 15 separate issues. And an issue could be something as simple as somebody complaining on Twitter. But we would actually be taking each of those all the way through resolution to make sure that we had extreme focus on this. And so with this model, we were able to actually have a big tracker board where we could identify issues, keep a close eye on them, keep our entire team up to date on the status of those issues, and then work through closing each one of them as we go. And so this was up on a giant screen in the room. Everybody could kind of see what was up. If anything was major, it would get flagged as red. We could see very clearly where there were problems. And then as we worked through that, it really gave us an opportunity to ensure a smooth event across the day. And so, I think across the Super Bowl, we were on the air for like 8+ hours. We actually opened, resolved, and closed like north of 150 incidents. But each of those incidents was so minor, it really didn't have any measurable customer impact. And so because of the proactive steps that the team was taking, we really were able to drive that great customer experience. And any minor wobble or little thing that showed up, a little spike in a graph, a bad tweet, whatever that was, we were able just to put that to bed with extreme focus.
Wow. What, were there any what ifs that you hadn't anticipated that came up in real life?
Oh boy, I mean, absolutely. To be completely honest, that day is a bit of a blur.
Sure.
I look back at it and like I couldn't even tell you what the score of the game was at this point.
I don't remember either.
It's
This was like 2 Super Bowls, 3 Super Bowls?
This was 2 Super Bowls ago, yeah. So it's a blur.
The before days.
Exactly, the before COVID times. But that being said, we definitely did have things that came up throughout the day. I'm not going to be able to pick an example for you off the top of my head, but whether this was just a tweet that was reported, or a database doing something weird, or honestly, as we had halftime hit, there was a good chunk of folks that we assumed just like went to the bathroom, stopped their streaming device, and then came back right before the halftime show started and hit rejoin. And so we actually did see a pretty good spike in users that caused us to scramble and say, what is causing this spike of users right then?
Sorry, I was part of that.
Yeah, exactly. But luckily, it wasn't any sort of issue at all, just normal user behavior. But this was something that the team was able to really get on top of immediately and work to understand and close out with no customer impact.
What do you think are some of the similarities and differences between running an operation like that for direct-to-consumer viewing versus what the broadcast team is doing to deliver over satellite?
You know, it's interesting. I mean, I think for our group, there are a lot of similarities. And so, in fact, for this next Super Bowl upcoming, we'll actually be partnering with our broadcast operations team in the same facility to really extend that operational mindset to both broadcast, play out, distribution, and digital all under one roof. As we think through this, you know, a lot of it just continues to focus on customer experience. And so our colleagues in broadcast will have similar sorts of operation centers where they're looking at not just the play out, but they're actually looking at each MVPD head end and are they downlinking the signal correctly? Is each local TV station affiliate getting their signal and being able to distribute that? Is every digital MVPD partner able to get that signal and distribute it? And so there really is all eyes on glass to make sure that that is a flawless event, not just on our digital platforms, but whether you're watching over the air or on a DMVPD or a traditional MVPD or satellite or, you know, whatever that method is.
The amount of return data is much bigger than it used to be, isn't it?
It is absolutely much bigger than it used to be. I mean, and so certainly the fact that we're able to do IP-based delivery has changed that a ton. And so, you know, for our end, we can get just honestly a mountain of data. I mean, we're generating terabytes of data every hour of the Super Bowl. And so, you know, that's a really wild thing to be able to process and log. Certainly on the broadcast side, it's maybe not quite terabytes of data, but we are able to get return feeds and health out of, you know, satellite IRDs and, you know, all of this other equipment that helps us, you know, keep an eye on things. But to your point, you know, what's different? I mean, honestly, it is I guess I'll call it the multicast nature of it. On digital, you know, we're able to observe down to the individual user and actually understand, you know, these 10 users, these 100 users are having a problem. On broadcast, you know, it really is looking at it at like a station or a market or an MVPD perspective. And so that really kind of changes from a you know, business to consumer into a business to business sort of relationship. And so that, you know, creates an interesting dynamic in how we actually work to mitigate problems. Mm-hmm. In our world, you know, we actually have control of that full stack all the way down to the customer. And, you know, with partnerships like Amazon and with our CDNs and elsewhere, we'll actually have everybody in the room and all the hands we need to basically resolve any problem that comes up. On the business to business side, dealing with affiliates and MVPDs, solving problems usually ends up meaning reaching out to the chief engineer at the local station, mm-hmm. or you know, reaching out to you know, engineering at the MVPD. So it's a little bit different in terms of how you mitigate and how you resolve problems and how deep we go into the architecture to solve a problem.
Sure. But there's something special, I think, about having that relationship with your viewer like that. Sure. And I wonder, what are some of the personalization things you're thinking about doing to take advantage of that you do have somebody's eyeballs and you do have a one-to-one stream going to them? Are you thinking about personalization?
Yeah, I mean, so today personalization is done in a couple of ways. And so, you know, of course, the obvious thing, you know, we'll try and personalize the right content for you. And so if you're a fan of a local sports team and that team is playing, we'll make sure that that's front and center, one click away from when you open the app. So that's kind of the obvious stuff. You know, on a kind of a more advanced level, we personalize advertising, and that's an incredible set of complexity. Because, and I'll say, not on the Super Bowl, but on an event like the World Cup, we'll actually have north of 300 advertising partners integrated into the stack to be able to have a piece of that inventory that gets served to users. And so that could be, you know, 200 or so affiliates, local TV stations around the country that each market gets their own inventory share. That could be programmatic partners. That could be, you know, various device partners. That could be, you know, all kinds of different inventory sources, all participating in a real-time auction to be able to determine what is the best ad for that user.
Are there any thoughts to bring that to the Super Bowl, or are Super Bowl ads too?
You know, the Super Bowl.
Let's just keep it national.
It's interesting. Like, so for the Super Bowl, one of the things that we thought long and hard about is, like, number one, could we do that technically? And I think the answer is it would be a challenge, but yes, we could. But honestly, the right thing to do for the viewer, the right thing to do for the customer, is to give them the same ads that are on TV. You know, as people watch this cultural event, this cultural milestone, it's about the game, it's about the halftime show, and yes, it's about the advertising. Mm-hmm. People want to see whatever that, that truly iconic ad is. and be able to talk about it the next morning with their colleagues. I mean, and it really is that kind of unique event where the ads actually do matter. And so, you know, we want to make sure that we're serving our customers, make sure that we're serving our advertisers. And so for the Super Bowl, it really is the one event a year that the ads are content. And so we make sure that we get the content to the users that they demand.
Yeah, for sure. What are you going to do different this time around than you did next time from what you learned?
Yeah, and so, you know, I think the biggest thing is we're started even earlier. You know, the Super Bowl, you know, last time around we started about a year early, and, you know, really prepped through that all throughout the summer, throughout the fall, and everything worked very well. But I think, you know, as we were going into the year, we got a little bit nervous about how late the development was going, how tight we were getting some of the rehearsals. And so, you know, the month of December last time around was just, I mean, we were rehearsing multiple times a week just to get all this done. And so the timelines got a little compressed. So this time around, you know, we really are just starting super early. You know, we've been having conversations with our partners for 6 months since the fall. Here at NAB, you know, we're actually sitting with every key partner and having these conversations to really dial in the experience. And our goal is this summer to actually wrap up development by, you know, mid to late summer so that we can really spend the whole fall just dialing everything in. So I think that's really the key thing there. Beyond that, you know, I think this is an opportunity for us to, you know, continue to really innovate on the observability and the amount of data that we can get into the stack. And so the thing that we're really excited about this year is actually a technology called CMCD. It's a new standard that stands for, I always get this confused, Common Media, sorry, I'm getting the acronym mixed up here, but yeah, CMCD, which really gives us the ability to focus on merging client data with CDN data and actually be able to track the user experience and the signal flow all the way from the encoder through the delivery pipeline all the way down to that consumer device to really understand what the experience looks like and how that signal got there to understand why they might be having a problem. And so we're making a big investment this year in CMCD, focusing on, you know, just continuing to iterate that customer experience. And so observability is going to be another key investment area. I think a lot of it is turning it from just how do we capture the data, how do we throw that in the dashboard, how do we give the team enough information to kind of go find a problem. And I think what we're looking to do this year is actually try and teach the system to find the problems for us. And so we can actually using alerting and via, you know, some interesting algorithms and, you know, really everything that we've learned over the last couple of years, how can we teach the system to actually find those alerts? And so whether it's a, you know, needle in a haystack, it's just this ISP with this CDN on this device, how can we alert on that and actually bring that issue to the surface so that the team can work to go mitigate and resolve it? And so a lot of investment in that as well.
Interesting. Great.
Yeah.
What excites you the most going forward?
So, you know, I think for me, this next year is all about quality, resiliency, and scale. And so just to touch on each of those a little bit more, you know, on the quality front, UHD HDR continues to be awesome. You know, we're making a big investment in that, and that really starts all the way from the camera, working with our colleagues like Dustin, who was just up here before, making sure that the sports production team is able to, you know, capture these amazing images, bring them through the production workflow, and then we can distribute them on digital and throughout the rest of the ecosystem. And so bringing that improved picture resolution, that improved color depth, is something that we're really excited about, and it's going to unlock so much great storytelling for all of our production teams. On the resiliency side, you know, we're continuing to invest just an absolute massive amount of resource and effort into making sure that the system just stays up. You know, television, it's been around for decades. It pretty much just works. And we have to get our digital ecosystem to meet that same quality standard.
There's a lot of broadcasters here that would disagree with you that it just works.
Fair enough, fair enough. But yeah, you know, I think for all of us, it's all about how do we make sure that we stay on the air, metaphorically.
Sure. Yep.
And then, of course, you know, on a personal level, you know, I'm really excited about how much this is a rallying point for our team. You know, anytime that we can have such a marquee event like the Super Bowl, have the ability to, you know, bring the team together to really rally around a single objective, a single initiative, it really is just a kind of that clarifying moment where everybody's moving the same direction, everybody knows what we have to do, everybody just like puts in, just so much effort and so much passion to get this done. And like, honestly, when you do that, that toast at the end of the night after delivering the Super Bowl, I mean, it is such just an absolute emotional high. I mean, it literally took me days to come down after it, so.
Yeah, you didn't invite me last time to the thing.
Well, we'll have to fix that this
Yeah,
time.
thank you. Last question.
Yeah.
I promise. What are some key takeaways for everybody here that they could learn from you when it comes to streaming large events?
Yeah, absolutely. And so, I think, like said simply, whether it's the biggest event or, something that's more every day, so much of what we've learned is about starting early and really iterating often. The learnings that we took from the Super Bowl, are continuing to evolve on an everyday basis. And we only got that by saying, hey, here's our best first idea. Let's give it a try. This is what worked well. This is what didn't. Let's try something new and actually move this forward. And so having that iteration process was really critical. In addition to that, I think other things that are super important is just, focusing on that customer experience. And so whether this is, making sure that you have great picture quality, great storytelling, great discoverability to find the content, these are things that are, just so key to the experience. And of course, I know we've been talking a little bit about observability and having that insight into the experience. This is one of those key things that, when problems occur, and problems inevitably occur, especially in this diverse world that we live in, with different partners, different networks, different ISPs out there, something's gonna happen. Somebody's gonna, drive a backhoe through a fiber line and, take off part of the country. We really have to be prepared for all those scenarios. And so having the observability to understand where problems are coming from and then being able to mitigate them in real time is just so key. And so I think, whether it's the Super Bowl, or it's just happens to be a college football game, or your kid's baseball game that you happen to be live streaming, having the ability to start that process early and iterate is just really so key. And so, for everybody who's working on live streaming events, that would be just a couple of nuggets of wisdom, and it's fun. Like, I mean, I think that is the last key piece here, is that what we work on is so much fun. And I know I have a blast every day, and I hope my colleagues do as well. And it's just awesome to be working in live TV. There's nothing quite like it.
I agree. Thank you, Stephen. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
If you'd like to ask us questions, you can find us afterwards, please.
Absolutely.
Thank you for having us. Yep.
And I think there's a cocktail hour that starts in like 25 minutes.
Oh, there is.
So.
Good.
Absolutely.
Okay, then.
So with that, thank you so much, everybody. Really appreciate it.